Alright, so I want to work on solving absolute value equations. So the first thing to remember with absolute value is that when we're looking at the absolute value of a number, we're really talking about a distance from 0. So when we talk about the absolute value of x equals 4, we think about the number line, and here's 0. We're talking about what numbers are 4 away from 0, and there are, of course, two options. We could have -4 and we could have +4. So this is a really simple equation. X is either 4 or -4. But it's important to look at the basic to help us when we get to the more complicated. So if we're actually going to solve this, I like to look at it as two options. Either that x inside is already positive, and so we just say x equals 4. Or maybe that x is negative, and so we put negative of x is equal to 4, which of course means that x equals -4. So in this case, we get x equals 4 or -4. Now you notice in this case, we could actually write it x equals plus or minus 4. This is rare. Most absolute value problems are not simply plus or minus a number. For example, let's say we wanted to try x minus 3. The absolute value of x minus 3 is equal to 4. Same idea. This x minus 3 could be positive, so we could do x minus 3 equals 4. Or if this number is negative, we have to change the sign. And so we could have to do negative of x minus 3 to take care of the absolute value equals 4. This one we solve fairly easily. X equals 7 by adding 3. Here we bring the negative over. X minus 3 equals -4. And so x equals -1. So our answers are x equals 7 or -1. Some people will actually skip this step here and just go straight to x minus 3 equals -4. I like to write it this way because it's something we're going to do later when we do inequalities. What if we have the absolute value of x minus 3, this time plus 5 equals 9? What are we going to do? Well, we're going to get that absolute value by itself by subtracting 5. So absolute value of x minus 3 equals 4. Okay, now we solve it. Just like we solved absolute value of x minus 3 equals 4 here and got x equals 7 or x equals -1. X equals 7 or -1. A little more complicated? Alright, let's make it a lot more complicated. 5, absolute value of 2x plus 7 minus 8 equals 12. A lot more to do this time, but it's the same process. We're going to start by getting this absolute value by itself. So we just have absolute value equals something. First thing to do is 5 times something minus 8 equals 12. So first we deal with the minus by adding 8 to the other side. And we have 5, absolute value 2x plus 7 equals 20. And then we're going to divide by 5. We want to get absolute value by itself. The opposite of multiplication is division. So absolute value 2x plus 7 equals 4. Now we can solve it like we did before. We're going to set this absolute value and say, okay, we've got two options. Either 2x plus 7 equals 4, or we've got to put that negative on it, and -2x plus 7 equals 4. So solving it, we subtract 7, divide by 2, and x equals -3 over 2. Here we make this -4, Subtract 7 and get negative 11, and x equals negative 11 over 2. So x is negative 3 over 2 or negative 11 over 2. And there's our more complicated example. Now, that's really all we have to deal with when we're solving absolute value equations, with one minor exception. What happens when we do this problem? And I'd like you to go ahead and try to solve this yourself. Be careful. There are two pitfalls, two things that are very common for people to try to do on this, and they end up getting it wrong. 7 plus 2 times the absolute value of 3x plus 2 equals 5. Pause the video. Alright, you've just unpaused it after finishing it, and we're going to work this problem. What do we do first? 7 plus 2 times absolute value 3x plus 2. First of all, you cannot add 7 and 2. 2 is being multiplied here. Order of operations said we would have to do the multiplication first. We don't want to multiply that out, so first we get rid of the 7. So we're going to subtract 7 to the other side, and we get 2 absolute value 3x plus 2 equals negative 2. Now we can divide by 2, and we have the absolute value of 3x plus 2 equals negative 1. Now, here's where the next problem comes in. Absolute value equals negative 1. Well, remember, what does absolute value represent? Absolute value represents distance. Distance can never be negative. Absolute value, this is always going to be positive value. Positive can never equal negative. So as soon as we see this negative over here, absolute value is all by itself equal to a negative, we know that our answer is no solution. So that's absolute value equations.